Every year, millions of gardeners kill their basil with kindness. They water daily. They fuss over drainage. They follow every piece of advice the nursery gave them. And every year, they watch it turn yellow, wilt, and die. Meanwhile, a gardener in Texas forgets about a basil plant for 2 weeks. They water it only when it droops. They make one aggressive cut that most people would never dare to make. That plant grows into a monster the size of a small dog. This is not luck. A viral Reddit post showing this exact result gathered 5,000 upvotes. In 2017, researchers in Iran found that stressed basil activates a flavor gene 46 times more than pampered basil. 2 techniques explain why. One involves water, the other involves a cut. Both have been understood for centuries. We just stopped teaching them. Welcome to Secrets Beneath Nature. If you have ever killed basil by following the rules, hit subscribe. Tell me in the comments what advice you were given that failed you. Here is something almost nobody in the Western world knows. Basil is not just an herb. For over 5,000 years, it was considered sacred. In India, basil is called Tulsi. The word means the incomparable one in Sanskrit. Hindus revere it as an earthly manifestation of the goddess Lakshmi, wife of Vishnu. Families grow it in their courtyards inside dedicated 4-sided brick structures. They worship it at sunrise and at sunset. They water it while reciting mantras. They believe its presence purifies the air, increases piety, and protects the household from evil. The woody stems of dead plants are carved into sacred japa mala beads worn around the neck. To this day, almost every Hindu household contains a Tulsi plant. It is not decoration, it is not garnish. It is devotion passed down through 5,000 years of unbroken tradition. But here is what matters for your garden. Ancient Indians did not pamper their basil. They understood something we forgot. Basil evolved in the tropical monsoon regions of India, Central Africa, and Southeast Asia. That means cycles. Torrential rain for weeks followed by months of drought. Searing heat followed by dry spells that would terrify a modern gardener. The plant developed sophisticated survival mechanisms over millennia. It learned to thrive on stress. When water became scarce, it concentrated its essential oils as a defense mechanism. When conditions improved, it exploded with growth to take advantage of abundance. This is the rhythm basil expects: flood and drought, abundance and scarcity, challenge and recovery. The plants that survived passed their genes forward. The plants that needed constant moisture died. Evolution selected for toughness. When Tulsi traveled westward along ancient trade routes, Europeans recognized its power. Christians called it sacred basil. The Latin name became Ocimum Sanctum, meaning holy basil. Greeks associated it with both love and mourning. Egyptians used it in embalming rituals. It was included in religious offerings across the Mediterranean. Every culture that encountered this plant understood it was special. But somewhere between the temples of India and the fluorescent lights of your grocery store, we forgot everything. And what replaced that ancient knowledge is a business model designed to make you fail. That basil plant you bought from the supermarket is not one plant. It is 20 to 30 seedlings crammed into a single tiny pot. The growers do this deliberately. Crowded seedlings look lush and full on the shelf. They photograph well for the produce section. They create the illusion of a thriving plant. They sell quickly to people who want fresh herbs for tonight's dinner. But they were never meant to survive more than 2 weeks in your kitchen. The root systems are tangled into a suffocating mat with no air pockets. There is no room for oxygen between the roots, no space for new growth, no access to nutrients once the original soil is depleted. The moment you bring it home, the decline begins. And then you do exactly what the tag says. You water it. You keep the soil moist. You put it on a sunny windowsill. You follow every instruction, and you accelerate its death. The nursery advice is not wrong because they are ignorant. It is wrong because it sells products. Water Daily sells watering cans and moisture meters. Dying Basil sells replacement basil plants every 2 weeks. Complicated Soil Amendments sell bags of specialty potting mix. Nobody teaches you to propagate your own plants from free cuttings because that eliminates repeat customers. The information was never suppressed by conspiracy. It was simply bad for business, and bad information spreads faster than good information when money is involved. So what did the ancients know that we do not? It starts with one hormone and one cut. At every point on a basil stem where 2 leaves emerge, there is a pair of hidden buds. They are dormant. They are waiting. They have the potential to become full branches, but they will not grow on their own. A hormone called auxin prevents them. Auxin is produced in the growing tip of the plant. It concentrates at the apex and sends a chemical message downward through the stem. Do not branch. Grow upward. Stay single. Focus all energy on vertical growth. The plant obeys this hormonal command. It shoots straight toward the sky. One stem, one growing point, limited harvest potential. This is called apical dominance. It is the default growth pattern for basil. But the moment you cut off that tip, everything changes. You remove the source of auxin. The chemical signal vanishes. The suppressed buds at the nodes below suddenly wake up. Within days, 2 new stems emerge exactly where one existed before. Each of those new stems will produce its own auxin. Each will try to establish dominance, and each can be cut again. This is not magic. This is mathematics built into the biology of the plant. Cut those 2 stems above their nodes and you get 4. Cut 4 and you get 8. 8 becomes 16. 16 becomes 32. This is exponential growth that every gardener has access to. Almost nobody uses it because they are afraid to cut their plants. Instead, they harvest basil by plucking individual leaves from the bottom of the plant. The large mature leaves that look ready to eat. But those lower leaves are solar panels. They capture sunlight. They power photosynthesis. They produce the sugars that feed the entire plant. When you remove them, you weaken everything above. You steal the engine while expecting the car to keep running. The correct method is the opposite of intuition. Cut from the top, always above a node. That is the point where 2 leaves meet the stem. Make your cut about a 1/4 inch above the node to give the new growth room to emerge. Your first cut should happen when the plant is only 6 inches tall, before it has invested all its energy in a single central stalk. Before the auxin has fully established dominance. Each cut gives you basil for dinner tonight and doubles your future harvest at the same time. This is why that Texas gardener grew a monster without trying. A branch broke under its own weight during a thunderstorm. The plant interpreted that break as a signal. It doubled its growing points overnight. The accident triggered the same response that deliberate pruning creates. They stumbled onto ancient knowledge by pure chance. But here's the problem. You can have a massive basil bush with 100 stems and still be disappointed, because size means nothing if every leaf tastes like wet cardboard. And this is where a study from Iran changed everything I thought I knew about flavor. In 2017, researchers at Urmia University wanted to understand why basil grown in harsh conditions often tastes stronger than basil grown in perfect greenhouse conditions. They designed a controlled experiment. They grew basil plants under 3 different watering regimes: 100% field capacity, meaning constantly moist soil; 75% field capacity, meaning moderate drought stress; and 50% field capacity, meaning severe drought stress. Then they measured what happened at the genetic level using real-time PCR analysis. The results should have made international headlines. A gene called EOMT controls the production of methyl-eugenol. This is one of the primary compounds that gives basil its distinctive clove and spice notes. Under severe drought stress, the expression of this gene increased 46 times compared to well-watered plants. Not 46%, 46 times.
Another gene called CVOMT controls the production of methylchavicol. This is the compound responsible for that unmistakable sweet basil essence that makes pesto taste like pesto. Its expression increased 6 times. The correlation between gene expression and actual flavor compound accumulation was statistically significant. 94% correlation for methylchavicol, 98% correlation for methyl-eugenol. The plants were not just surviving stress, they were transforming. They were concentrating their essential oils into smaller, denser leaves. They were becoming chemically different plants.
A separate study published in 2023 confirmed the physical mechanism. Basil grown under moderate drought stress produced 60% more glandular trichomes. These are the microscopic hair-like structures on the leaf surface where essential oils are manufactured and stored. You can see them if you look closely at a basil leaf. They appear as tiny dots. More trichomes means more oil production capacity. More oil means more flavor. The basil you pamper with daily watering never experiences this trigger. The roots sit in constantly moist soil. The leaves grow large, soft, and watery. The flavor compounds stay diluted across all that excess tissue. You are essentially growing water with a hint of green. But there is a critical balance. The same ERMIA study found that severe drought reduced overall plant size by nearly 50%. Extreme stress creates flavorful but tiny plants. You do not want that. You want large, thriving basil with concentrated flavor. The answer is controlled neglect, strategic stress, monsoon cycles recreated in your garden. Stop following a watering schedule. Throw it away. Basil does not care what day of the week it is. It cares about soil moisture. Push your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it feels damp, walk away. Do not water just because of the day on the calendar. If it feels dry, water deeply until liquid runs from the drainage holes. Then wait. Let the plant experience what its ancestors experienced in the foothills of India. When your basil wilts slightly in afternoon heat and then recovers fully by evening, you have found the sweet spot. That cycle of mild stress and recovery is triggering the flavor genes without killing the plant. A basil that never wilts is probably sitting in waterlogged soil with suffocating roots. A basil that wilts and stays wilted needs water immediately. The rhythm between those two states is where the flavor lives.
Now combine both techniques and watch what happens. You water deeply. The soil saturates. Then you wait while the soil dries out. The plant experiences controlled drought stress. Flavor genes activate. Essential oil production increases. Defensive compounds concentrate in the leaves. Then you cut the growing tips just above the nodes. The plant branches outward. 2 stems become 4. 4 become 8. More stems means more leaves and more surface area for harvest. Because you keep removing growth, the stress response continues. The plant never gets comfortable. It keeps producing the chemical defenses that we experience as flavor. This is how monster basil happens, not through careful daily attention, but through strategic cycles of drought and abundance paired with aggressive pruning. And here is where it compounds. Every cutting you remove can become a new plant. Take those stems you pruned and strip the leaves from the bottom 2 inches. Place them in a glass of clean water on a sunny windowsill. Within 7 to 14 days, white roots will emerge from the submerged nodes. Once the roots reach 2 inches in length, transplant the cutting into moist potting soil. You now have an exact genetic clone of your original basil. Same flavor profile, same growth pattern, same response to stress. One grocery store basil plant contains 20 to 30 seedlings. If you separate them into individual pots, prune them correctly using the node method, and propagate every cutting you harvest, you can have over 50 independent basil plants by the end of summer from a single $4 purchase. You never need to buy basil again. Every harvest multiplies your supply instead of depleting it. So why does nobody teach this? Why do gardening guides tell you to water daily and pick leaves gently from the bottom? Why did 5,000 years of accumulated wisdom disappear from mainstream knowledge? Because the truth is bad for business. The nursery industry profits when your plants die quickly. Seed companies profit when you buy new packets every spring instead of saving seeds or taking cuttings. Garden centers profit when you replace your herbs every few weeks.
Teaching you to propagate your own plants from free cuttings eliminates paying customers. Teaching you to stress your plants for better flavor contradicts the fertilizers and amendments they want to sell. The ancient Indians who grew tulsi in their courtyards had no profit motive. They passed knowledge from generation to generation because it worked. They understood monsoon cycles because they lived through them. They pruned aggressively because they watched the results with their own eyes over thousands of years. That knowledge still exists. The science has now confirmed it with gene expression studies and controlled experiments. The hormones respond exactly as they did 5,000 years ago. The only thing standing between you and monster basil is the courage to ignore modern advice and trust ancient biology. So here is your assignment. If you have basil growing right now, stop watering it for 3 days. On day 4, push your finger into the soil. If it is dry 2 inches down, water deeply. If it is still damp, wait longer. Then find a stem that is at least 6 inches tall and cut it cleanly just above a node. Put that cutting in a glass of water on your windowsill. Watch what happens to the mother plant over the next 2 weeks. Watch what happens in that glass as roots emerge from nothing. 2 techniques. Controlled drought to trigger the flavor genes. Aggressive cuts above the nodes to multiply your harvest exponentially. Combined, they create monster basil with concentrated flavor that you can propagate forever for free. The science is clear. The results are visible. The methods cost nothing. We just forgot to teach them. If this changed how you think about growing basil, subscribe to Secrets Beneath Nature. Share this video with someone whose basil keeps dying. Tell me in the comments. Will you try the neglect method? The next video drops soon.